What a rainy day. But you know what overcast skies mean? Soft light. But here we have hard light. Like maybe if I just murdered someone, this would be an appropriate quality of light to use for that situation. But I swear I didn't just murder someone, so let me try something. So how much better does this look? Right? So in general, as a filmmaker, the softer, the better. As a man, that's not something I typically hear, but as a filmmaker, soft is typically a very good thing. Soft light is one of the most common forms of lighting you'll use. It's the most flattering there is for people's faces. As hard light defines shadows and increases contrast ratios between light and dark, soft light minimizes shadows by creating smoother fall off from your highlights into your shadows. So on pretty much everyday shoots, I'm using soft light a lot more often than I'm using hard light to light people's faces. Soft light is a much more natural lighting quality as opposed to hard light that makes everything feel really sourcey. It makes it feel like you have a light there and you're lighting your subject. The amazing news for you is that soft light is achievable for pretty much any light that you own. There's just really three key secrets, three key principles that you need to understand for you to be able to achieve a soft quality of light. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to be using one light, and that's going to be my Nanlite Forza 500, which is a great light. But I know many of you are beginners and you're starting out, so don't feel like you need the exact light that I have for you to be able to do this, because you can really use any light that you have. So the first principle of getting soft light is diffusing it. So this source, before we do anything to it, is just a naturally hard source. And before we add any diffusion in front of it, it looks pretty terrible and really unflattering and yeah, like, I don't know, disgusting, huh? So what we do is we either diffuse the light or we bounce the light. So what we can use to diffuse the light is diffusion material. Diffusion material is something that the light is able to pass through, but that material disperses the lighting particles and it makes sure that it's not such a concentrated light source. And really anything can be a diffusion material as long as the light's able to pass through it. There's a long list of diffusion materials that you're able to use. You can use silks, you can use poly, you can use muslin. And honestly, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I know like the exact specific differences between all of them. But just like if you're a beginner, just like use anything really. Like you'll be fine. So let's throw on this diffusion material that is attached to this light dome, put it on our light, and turn it from hard to soft. Man, that is so much better. It's like giving me anxiety sitting here with that terrible looking light on my face. Like I didn't want someone to like skip through my video and like think that that was actually how I was lighting my video without listening to me talk, so. Feels good to be back. So this is with the diffusion material, so let's try bouncing the light now. So I really prefer to use diffusion material because it's usually easier for you to control the light spill. But if you do need to bounce your light, what you can do is either bounce it off like a foam board, or you could even bounce it off something like this giant white wall, which I'm about to do right now once I take off my light dome. So the light right now is facing this giant white wall that is right here on me, and it's creating this soft source because when the light hits the wall and it bounces back, it's dispersing the particles. So again, it's not such a concentrated source of light. My skin's a little warmer than it was with the light dome attachment. That's because my walls are like off white. They're a little warmer than like just like a bare white. So that's why you're seeing a little bit of a color temperature change. And that's another thing to note, like your diffusion material is going to be your new source of light. So whatever color your diffusion is or the bounce that you have, it's going to take on that color and the properties of that specific thing that you chose to bounce it or diffuse it with. So if you want an even softer light through diffusion or bouncing, what you're able to do is add another layer of diffusion. So since I'm bouncing this light off of the wall, I'm now able to put up, a sheet of diffusion if I had it right here. And that light that is bouncing, that is already being diffused through the bounce, is then going to come through an extra layer of diffusion and be even softer and even more, spread out. But important thing to note here in that situation is every time you're adding another layer of diffusion, you're losing output from your original source. So if you do want to add additional layers of diffusion or bounce, you're going to need a stronger light, and that's where this light that I'm using comes in handy. But diffusing once is like plenty good for 99.9% of situations. Real quick, let's like throw up another thing of diffusion, turn the light up and see what that looks like. So what I'm doing here to add another layer of diffusion is I hung up this like sheet of diffusion material that I just bought off of Amazon. It was like 12 bucks. Taped it up to the corner of the door there, and then taped the other side just to the light post right there. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see what it looks like, see if it's worth the trouble. Yeah, this is what that looks like. So you be the judge of whether it's worth it to add the extra layer of diffusion or not. But getting a lot of spill just because I'm blasting the light a little harder into the wall behind it, and I don't have a bunch of flags to like cut light out. So I don't know. Just for the example. Now that we've covered like all the different diffusion materials and ways that you can bounce light, I'm just going to throw on the light dome for the rest of the video, just because it's a lot more convenient for me. All right, so it's looking great. It's nice and soft, but watch what I do now. So now it doesn't look really that great. The difference here now is that I actually took the same light dome and moved it further away. And that leads us to the second point, which is that the closer the light source is to you, the softer it's going to be, and vice versa. So now look what happens when I take the light and I move it in super close to my face. And as you can see that since the light is so much closer, the light looks a lot softer. So the reason for this is like really super scientific. And if you watch my channel, you're probably not like a super scientific person, because like I'm not a super scientific person. So we're not gonna like dig too deep into that. So my dumbed down explanation of this would be that the closer your light source is to you, the smoother the light fall off is going to be. So as you can see, the brightest part of my face closest to the light is smoothly rolling off into the shadows of my face. So again, same diffusion material, just backed up. There's more distance. And as you can see, the light looks a lot worse and it's a lot harder of a source now. So you're not always going to have the option of having your light this close to your subject. Like obviously, like it's blocking part of the frame. You're not gonna want that. Or say you're interviewing someone, you don't want it to be blocking, the eye connection between the interviewer and the interviewee. Or if you're filming an actor who is trying to get into a very specific role, like you don't want to be distracting them by putting like a light a foot away from their face. So that leads into our third principle, which is increasing the size of your light source. The bigger the source, the softer the source. Sorry, sounds of sleeping and having a bad dream. Makes me so sad to watch. I think I'm gonna wake her up. And this principle really works the same way as our last principle works. So as a light source gets closer to you, it relatively gets bigger to you. So the moon is actually like a really giant light source, but because it's so far away from us, it appears smaller and it's a lot harder to light. But if you took the moon and you pulled it all the way super close to you, it would start to become a lot softer. So if you don't have the option of bringing a light closer in because you're distracting your actor or the light is in frame, walk your light back and make it a bigger source. Something else I should mention is that the bigger your light source, the softer your light source, the bigger your eye light. And eye lights are always beautiful and it gives your subject a lot more life. So this lighting obviously is soft enough for me and my light dome's not in the way. And this light dome in particular is already like a pretty big source. But say I, for some reason, want to make this softer, what I could do is, if I had the space, rent some 12 by 12 frame of unbleached muslin and put that giant wall up. And there I have like a really big soft source further away instead of having something a little bit smaller and closer into the action that could be distracting. I could even do what I did earlier where I could flip the light around, shoot it into the wall, and it becomes this giant big soft source. I'm not gonna do it again. So just from seeing some of the videos that some of you have sent to me, I know that a lot of you can benefit from learning the principles and the fundamentals of getting softer light, because some of your videos are looking really hard and really sourcey because you're using hard light and it looks like you're trying to light rather than having a much more natural feel to it. But yeah, if you're a super beginner, don't stop here. Like do more research, aside from this video. There's a lot more for you to learn on this subject. This was just scratching the surface on achieving soft light by following those 3 principles that I mentioned. And like actually practice and do it yourself. Set up a light, set up your camera, put different things in front of your light to see how different materials react with that light and see how it looks for yourself. But if you watch this video, it's a great start for you. You're doing the right things. You're on the right track. Just continue to work hard and keep doing what you're doing. Thanks as always for watching, and I love you.